So last episode, I introduced you to our 1960 FB Holden Ute. I don't know if you want to call it a resto, rescue, revival, or a rat rod. It's somewhere in the middle there. It was so rusty, in fact, that I think I might have called it saving the unsavable. To save it, I've had to graft a 1985 two-wheel drive Toyota Hilux chassis and floor pan into this body. I showed you last episode, we made it up the steering, the brakes. It's got a 400 small block Chevy and a 3-speed automatic in it. And in the last episode, we did actually get it to run. And right at the end of the last episode, I started building an exhaust to try and quieten it to a point where we actually can put this thing on the road. So that's probably where we'll pick up in this episode. So this time on Back Shed, we're going one step further with the FB rat rod. Here's where I'm up to. I actually think I'm going to pull up for the day. It's getting late in the afternoon and I'm to the point where I'm either going to do something really rough and cause headaches for myself, in the fact that these two pipes come up really good, but to get it in past the starter, you just start out there and feed him up like that. And it's good. It weaves its way down. I got to the back cross member. I'll just chuck these nuts on and I'll show you. I'm not kidding, it has come up good. Like, tremendously good really for what I was expecting, and that's why I'm going to pull up. That doesn't make any sense, but I'll show you why. So like I said, it is actually coming up pretty good, and that's why I want to stop. For once, I think I want to try and make that better. Flange there, 90-degree bend into a 45 here, coming back where it'll join. Anyway, you get the point. Pulling up. I sort of can't think of a reason why I'd need to take it off, and I guess if I did just keep going, like I could always drop that sway bar, but am I just beating my head against the wall? I don't know. It is getting late. It's nearly beer time. So I'm just thinking, just for once, I'm going to slow up. I'll knock off 5 minutes early today, get up early, get to the exhaust shop, a couple of flanges, a couple of bends, and then it'll have more or less 2 header tubes, a flange, a Y pipe, a flange, and a muffler. And, you know, tailpipe if I go that far, whichever. I think it'll just be easier for the sake of getting a couple of flanges. So the one thing I've learned from that is I'm never slowing down and going to try and do things good ever again. Because it's 7 days later. I couldn't get anything locally, I couldn't get anything overnight, so I literally had to order online and just wait. And by that time I had to go back to work. So here's what we got. So I got my flanges. I could only get 2 1/4, so I'm going to have to flare the end of that pipe just enough so I can weld those two together. Then these little bends to come out of those primary pipes that are across behind the transmission. I've got a twin 2-inch to 2.5-inch collector, and as it heads to the back of the car, that's where we'll put a 2.5-inch muffler and tailpipe. Anyhow, I've got enough gear now, so let's quit crying about it and just build an exhaust. So I've got to this point where I extended the flange out past the cross member and the torsion bar, so I've got a little piece in there. Then I've turned the guy 90 degrees, come along here 90 degrees again, and brought them together, and did the same on this side, just flange there. Now I've tacked that guy so I can still move that pipe, but check that out. The collector, I'm going to weld them together, cut that off. The collector's going to go right here, and that is a factory exhaust mount. It couldn't have been any better position. By the time I chopped that off, add the flange, no, not a flange, what is it? Collector, right there. Then it'll go back, muffler, right there. It wants to live. Alright, keep going, but I'm having a little win on that one. With the collector, you've got to actually weld these two pipes together and then seam weld around it. So I'm just going to weld them. Yep, they're offset a little, and I could have pushed that up, but that would have made that flange not line up, and that wasn't good enough, which is really not what I do. But anyway, it's going well. I can still manipulate that guy a little, but I'd prefer to have it up nice and tight to grab a hold of this fella. Keep going. So this is where we're at. We've got our flanges, our cross pipe, into the 2-to-1 collector, and then just back to the muffler. But I'll quickly throw a bit of black on that, get it fitted, and I'll show you how it's all coming together. All fitted up, and so we've got my cheap headers going into my 2 primary tubes, then into some flanges. They're just 2-inch flanges, 2-inch tube, there and there, so that if need be, looks like I actually need to undo that one and take that one up a bit, but anyway, so if need be I can drop this back section off and get these guys off without removing sway bars and things. And then we went into a collector, 2-inch, 2 in into 1, 2.5 out. I did use the factory bracket, and I've put a thin strip of metal around him as well just to hold it a bit better. I was worried about welding that thick steel straight to the tube and it just vibrating and snapping off, so just a little tab that goes around it. Then into an exhaust box or muffler, and the factory bracket I've just welded down the back there and down the side of the muffler there. I could always run this guy across to the other side, but that's where I'm going to stop because the spare wheel goes here, and I wouldn't mind turning it, coming across here, maybe grabbing that bracket there, and then coming out somewhere here. But to do that I want the bumper head on, the spare wheel in, and I've got to put some weight on the leaf springs. If you remember, that looks like it's dumping right on that tube, but when you put that on the ground, the diff's going to, or the body's going to come down, the diff's going to go up, and so it'll actually come out more like here. So anyway, let's get it down. I've got one more little job, and then it's drive time. Actually, make that 2 jobs. The first one was I just want to connect that negative earth for the fan. I'm just going to put an alligator clip onto the negative terminal just so it's constantly running for the minute anyway. And the other one is no steering wheel. If you remember, the factory wheel wouldn't fit because that's a EH column, and the steering wheel didn't go on far enough, so I need to find a nut and a steering wheel. Like I say, just for now, I've just put an alligator clip and I'm just going to clip it onto the terminal because first run, I guess I'm a little concerned It's a marketplace buy. It was a long time ago, and these things are Siamese bore. Siamese bore meaning the two bores are joined. There's no water jackets in between them. That was the 400 only. The 350 blocks and all that, they're different. So they don't like getting hot. So I'm going to run that constantly just for now. Wedge it down there where it can clearly get, I know, tangled in something. And now find me a steering wheel and we're driving. Refuel, find me a steering wheel and we're driving. Finding a nut for this column. I don't think it'll be too hard because that's another EH column. Hang on, that might be EJ, and the one in the Ute. I might have spoke too soon because it just dawned on me. The only bit EH about this is the outer case. The collapsible column itself is HG or T or K or one of those ones. EH wasn't collapsible. Come on, go on. Oh, that'll do enough to drive it. That'll do me. And I've dug through the shelves of miscellaneous car crap. I found this. It's brand new, never been on a car, but when I say brand new, it's like 25 years old, just never been used brand new. I don't necessarily like it. It's way too shiny, but it's going to go on. I've got a hankering to hit that with some sandpaper and rat it up, but we'll see. I think for now I'll just be happy with something that fits. I know that was for an EH. That HG, T or K column, they must be the same because that's gone on. That's on the spline, and if I can get that nut, and if I can just get this nut on, I might just have a look at that thread. Whatever, bang it on. I would say no, they're not the same, but it's going to be good enough. It's on the spline. Let's do this. And I'm filling him up and it's leaking instantly, so we're not done yet. Oh, dead serious. Are you really? Bottom radiator hose. I could actually see that being a pain in my ass. That's a cheap Chinese hose clamp, but it's all I had. The actual real drama is, you see that bottom outlet, it's actually flattened, and then as it moves away from the radiator, it then turns back into a circle. It's actually been fairly hard to clamp it there, so I don't think that clamp has enough force to hold it. That bottom tank's only about that wide, and I'm trying to use an outlet like that, so they've squashed it down to get that outlet to work. Kind of thankful now I didn't put coolant in that. It would have been even more annoying, wouldn't it? And of course I'm trying to do this the hard way. I don't want to pull that radiator hose off because it's such a nightmare to get on. And so I'm trying to thread this hose clamp. Oh, I might have got it just as I was about to bitch and moan about it. I think I got it. No, I didn't get it. Continue bitching and moaning. Right, I'm certain I got it this time. So this will probably do nothing, and then I'll find out it's actually a weld, not a poor quality clamp. Then I'll lose my shit, regather my shit, and continue on. It looks like I might have it, and as I say, it was just a cheap Chinese looking clamp. I'll put a better one on there, fill him back up with water. Let's get into it. I'll soon find out if I got it or not. The minute it starts producing some heat, it'll let me know. I'll go out on a limb and say that would be the best exhaust I think I've made. And I've done the Mucus HQ with the big block, the XY Falcon, but most of them, or both of them, are long tube headers. They come out under the car, then pretty much straight exhaust pipe into mufflers and then dump. Whereas this one, you know, it's crossing over, it's doing exhaust stuff under there. So am I happy that I slowed down and waited? Hell no. That pissed me up the wall, to be honest. But luckily, I'm as shallow as shit, so I'm already over that. Moved on to other problems like leaking radiator, fixed, but we've got one more. I'm absolutely out of fuel, so I've got to go and get some fuel. Both drums are empty. My little fuel jug in the back of this guy is empty. But that'll give me a chance to go and get the wheels that I bought off Marketplace for this guy. Not exactly my first choice. You'll see. Just because of the offset, I had to get a later model wheel. You'll see. Let's go and get some fuel and some wheels. So we're now fueled up. I've actually zip tied a 10 litre into the back of it. And before I worry about these wheels, let's just see what it sounds like with a full exhaust on it. I've been dying to hear it. That sounded absolutely horrendous, but I know what it is. I put the converter dust cover back on, and it's sketchy as. It's been cut out, butchered. It's touching the flex plate. So back up we go. Like I said, lucky I'm shallow. This is what I'm talking about, the dust cover over the converter and the flex plate. You can actually see the front's cut off it. There's the teeth of the flex plate there. That should have a front that goes up there, but obviously something's changed, whether that's for a smaller flex plate or whichever. You can see the hammer marks here. It's got to be touching somewhere, because that's exactly what that sounded like. Seems fine there. It's got to be up on this side somewhere. Look, you can tell it's not the right one. Anyway, I'll see if I can bend that down. And with it pulled down, you can see there's one mark there, and the other mark is just there. So it's that starter gear is grabbing on it. As that starter gear is throwing out, it's touching on it. I can bend that section, but I might just flex it a bit to get it away from that side. Look at the butchery on it. It's clearly not the right one, but anyway, we'll make it work. I made it work all right. I took it off. It's clearly not the right one. It's been cut all around there. You can see there where it's been hitting on the starter. And, oh, I can't see it now. I think there was hitting on the ring gear. I think I'll investigate a new one, because we've got a little bit of work to do under here anyway. The trans pan's got a little leak. Although that looks like oil, so that's probably that oil from when I ran it without that pressure gauge line done up. Or whatever. What was the issue up there? Oh, we had something leak. Oh, I remember now. Remember it had no line in the back of the block. It just had a fitting and sprayed oil out everywhere. I wonder if that's the oil running down the case. I thought I cleaned that up, but clearly I didn't. Well, not well enough. Alright, time to hear it. soon as I fired it, I heard my dump fall out. See if it's got these real quick. I might idle it down before I go pulling it into gear. It's filling up with smoke pretty quick too. The hose seems okay, but that water neck obviously needs a bit of work. Wow. Let's see. So reverse. Oh, yep. Who's first? Neutral. Reverse. I think I've got gears. That wheel's spinning. I thought the brakes were locked on. That's just weird. It's moving in reverse. I can't get it to drive forward now. So I don't know if I've called that a great start. I've got water pissing out everywhere, that water neck. That's not a big drama. I've got transmission fluid on the ground. I'll have to see where that's coming from. Something's going on with the brakes. I thought it was neutralizing the gearbox, but apparently the left-hand rear wheel was turning. And that was only when I was trying to drive forward. The minute I put in reverse, it reversed. Oh, I wonder if the handbrake could do that. I wonder if the handbrake's jammed on. And it's the right-hand rear that's stuck on. But right now it's kind of angry and hot, and I'm not going to touch it. Touch everything else that's hot. But anyway, I'll just let it cool down. That sounds good. That's the positive I can take away from all of that. It didn't drive great. It's not shifting gears. All little stuff, and I'm sure some of it's minor. If it is one of the handbrakes, how many is there? No, if it's one side of the handbrake that's sticking on, it's probably only because I've got the cable swung around the chassis and zip tied up. I might have it jammed on. Failing that, when I put this master cylinder in, I don't think I even had to bleed it. I bled the master cylinder, but the calipers and everything never really lost fluid. I only disconnected the master so they didn't drop fluid anywhere and reconnected them back up, so maybe they'll just need bleeding. I guess the easy way to find is just put it in the air and spin the tyres, see which one wants to spin. I know the left rear spins, although I didn't at the time. Anyway, small issues on the wheels. I'll get to them in the morning. See you in the morning. Every episode I do that lately where I'm like, see you in the morning, and then it bugs me and I've got to check it. I've got to see where this is puking from. I'll just make sure I actually got the chassis. Oh, got an oil leak too. It's not the front that are locked on. It's got to be at that rear. Oh, have a look at this. So when I pulled the Toyota Hilux apart, it was running and driving, but I never said it was running and driving well. That's just flopping around, and that's actually locking it. That's locked there now, but if I go backwards, that's why I had reverse but no forward. Oh no, there it goes. So I'd say I'll pull that drum off and that'll very quickly tell me what's going on there. But we've got transmission fluid, water and oil. That's exciting. I'm going to take a punt and say, yeah, look, it's from up there where my light's pointing. So it's basically that fitting. The one I plug that pressure line. There's transmission fluid as well. But I've got heaps. Yeah, both those lines are leaking as well. Oh well. That might be as simple as just nipping them ones up. Now they're warm or something. The vacuum modulator's connected, but it wasn't shifting into second, so might have to check the other end of it. Anyway, a few little things. The only thing that didn't leak, that was the clamp I put on before. It really wasn't the greatest first drive. I'll have a quick look what's going on with this brake. It's kind of bugging me. Hopefully I haven't mangled up the shoe inside there. Although Toyota Hilux stuff, it won't be hard to get. I find it a little bit funny that I'm sitting there thinking, is this thing neutralising? Is it not going? The whole time it's turning that left-hand tyre. It wasn't smoking, so I couldn't see. And it was effortless too. Like, I suppose if this brake's locked on, it's sending all the power to that wheel. It seems pretty sharp. Like you blip the throttle and it sounds like it wants to respond. Just responds with a lot of leaks, that's all. Be good if we can keep the fluids on the inside, please. I think we've got every fluid leaking. I haven't damaged too much because that... Oh, we've got a leaking something or other. The moisture in that. I might check that master cylinder level. What is all over that? That's sticky. Common sense is telling me that's brake fluid, but it doesn't smell like it. It's got to be though. So that slave is obviously shot. So I might check that rear reservoir on that master. I think I just called that wheel cylinder a slave, but it's not. It's just a wheel cylinder. But it's definitely leaking. It didn't get hot. It just lost a lot of water. Oh, barely. Maybe that was, well, see, I haven't used it, right? So maybe that was leaking prior to me doing the chassis swap, because that hasn't dropped anything really. They're both, have a look, they're both the same level. They're pretty much the same level. It's not 100% why the front's green and the back's not. That could have been me using two different types of fluid. Have done that before. Either way, that doesn't seem like there's an issue up here. So I'm wondering if that wheel cylinder was leaking way back when I bought the Toyota Hilux as a vehicle. It took me a little while to get to it, strip it, so it's been sitting a long time is the point I'm making. Maybe that's why it's not smelling like a brake fluid leak. It smells funny, it smells like grease. Maybe it's mixed with grease, idiot. Why would it be mixed with grease? There's no grease in it. Those wheel bearings would be diff oil. Anyway, just thinking out loud. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they've had a little problem in here before. I'll show you why. Look at this. Look at the hammer marks there. And back there. Just there. And there. I'd say when this truck was still a Toyota Hilux, we had some braking issues. Some of that doesn't look too bad. Almost as if some of that's new. Something's failed and let go and whatever else. But what's all the shite in it? See, those pads aren't adjusted up too hard because that still comes on and off. It's real sticky though, so I might spend the next 10 minutes soaking them down. They'll never be the same again, whatever's been in there. Maybe that is just ancient brake fluid with dust and shit and crap stuck to it. I'll let this soak overnight. That's just some workshop degreaser, full strength shit. Try and really get the brake fluid out of that. It's got to be brake fluid, it just doesn't smell right. Probably 15 or 20-year-old brake fluid. Just try and get it all out of those pads. What's the worst that could happen? I chuck a set of pads in it and a wheel cylinder. Sort of wondering, has it been done though? Although, what was around there looked really wet, so I wonder if it actually is squirting out the top here. I'll get it cleaned up first thing tomorrow. Put some pressure in those lines and just see what happens. think I'm gonna have to scotch those pads. Wow, that's terrible. And it's still getting the better of me, so I'm still pulling things apart. It's not stupid hot, so I just sort of start investigating. And as I'm pulling this apart, I'm remembering we had an issue with that. That's a different thread to that. From memory, I had to rethread that side of the manifold. There's a heap of sealant around the base of that, and you can see the grinding marks. So I've obviously had to die grind all of that out. Come in, you won't see it from out there. You'll see in here, I've had to die grind all of that out to be able to put a thermostat in it. If you lift that up, thermostat goes there, that little fella goes there. Now, I've obviously had to do that to be able to fit that thermostat in there. And what they're for, the 400s, like I said, they're a Siamese board. They're a little bit different to the 350 block. They actually have steam holes in the cylinder heads to let the steam out. And this guy has got these hoses that run right back to the back of the heads. It's to try to, I guess, balance up the temperature in the cylinder heads. It's a good idea, so I left them there. But I don't think that housing is sealing on the top of that at all. And if you look hard, it looks like it should have an O-ring there. I obviously haven't put one because it's got to sit over the top of the thermostat, but it's not seating down properly. At least that's a fairly easy fix. I'll just take a heap off that edge there with the die grinder, make sure it clears. I want my thermostat in there, and I do want them still connected. I think a lot of this has got to do with the way I used to work on this, and that was, you go to the in-laws, you'd have a couple of days, you know, visiting and whatever, and you just try and thrash out as much as you could. And I've clearly missed shit like that. Like, it just sits nice on it, so you think, well, that's seated. Oh. I've now realised why I missed the fact that that had an O-ring land in it. It's because it doesn't. That was literally the sealant. I put some sealant around it in the gasket, and I've tightened it down, and all that has happened is it's imprinted the gasket and the sealant to make it look like there was an O-ring. That's why I've missed the fact there was an O-ring missing, because there bloody wasn't. So now it's just not sealing that plate to that plate because it's sitting up on that, the very, very edge of that thermostat. So all I need to do is trace around that now. I just trace that. It's a fair area, but I reckon I've only got to recess that ever so slightly. So I'm just going to get the die grinder, put a 45 on that, and then sink it in like that, maybe sit a straight edge across it. But anyway, I'll be here for a while. So I've recessed the back of that guy there. I just put a V in that with the die grinder and a little sander. So now when I drop that over that thermostat and hold him in place, I can actually move the thermostat, which means it's not resting on the thermostat. So now if I clean up that surface, I've got some shitty gaskets. I should be right to start putting it back together. I think I need sealant on the bottom of that one, because that one goes straight into the manifold. Look at you thinking about all these things now. Where were you on that one earlier? Am I game enough to plug that or wire that into that? That's the next question. And why I say game enough, that radiator is kind of small, maybe for a 400. And so in a funny way, I want to leave it running all the time, but in another way, I think that was like a 80-degree thermostat. I'm just not sure if I want to let it build that much heat straight. Oh, fucking hell. Really? Really? Let's undo it all. Put the thermostat back in. I was that worried about gasket and sealant and all the rest of it. It's sitting there right in front of me. At no stage did I say I was smart. And I just proved it. In you go. If that doesn't leak, I'll be shocked. So with everything cleaned up this morning, I've clamped off the brake so I can apply pressure without the shoe just expanding, and I've forced that as hard as I can. I've got no fluid at this point, nothing leaking. I've just held pressure on it, so I'm actually going to just chuck the drum back on, scuff up the pads. They're obviously fluid affected, so I'm just going to give them a quick scuff up and just let it develop. If it becomes an issue, great, but for now there's no leak. Well, not if it becomes an issue, great, but you know what I mean. It'll sort itself out, or it'll rear its ugly head. I'm just going to secure that cable back. And we're in business. I did press that pedal once. Ah, she's on. And as far as the transmission lines, I've made a very poor attempt just to tighten those guys up and clean them down. So I'll see if they continue or whether it reduces, and maybe have to go and get another couple of fittings, but maybe that's for another episode. But here's the real concern. I was noticing on the ground, there's my transmission leak, there's my oil leak, but that's water and it's still dripping now. And when you follow it up here, look right there at that plug. See if I can get in there. See that plug? That's dripping. So that means header pipe off, probably the header off to tighten that plug, unless I can get to the back of it. Can't even get my finger in there. I won't get an Allen key in there. But it doesn't look like it's coming from the bottom of the plug. It looks like it's coming from the center of the plug, so that's a bit of a showstopper. This is another 350 I've got. That's the plug there, but it looks like it's coming from the center of the plug. So if it's coming from the center of the plug, it means it's split or something of that nature. I'll completely ignore that, I think. And my little oil leak, I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to nip that bolt up that I've got in that top fitting. And those oil pressure fittings are generally slightly tapered, so the further you go in, the tighter they get, but this isn't. This is just a bolt. So I did put some sealant on it, but I'm just going to give it a little half turn nip, just in the off chance that stops the leak or reduces the leak. Probably do absolutely nothing, but I think I'll just have to spy on it now. I know it's there while it's running, and see, is that in fact where it's coming from? It does look like it is because it's from way up there, but we'll see. So essentially I've done nothing. I've put the brakes back together. I haven't done that handbrake bracket. I've got to do that. Nipped up that, found that water leak, ignored that, and moved on. Let's go. So it turns out that's asked about face. That should be coming from the other side, because look, see how there's no head?
It's coming from the other side. This plate is threaded and that's a nut. So that top one's been stripped. I've put a bolt and a nut on the back of it. So all I really got to do is undo that guy, get it out. If you see, that's threaded, so that's going to come from the other side. So it's arse, so where its face is. It's arse about face. You get it? You with me? So I'll just find another bolt, unless that thread is destroyed. No, that thread's alright. So I'll just find another bolt threaded like that. That's half stripped, so maybe I won't. I'll find something. That's what I'm saying. I'll find something.
And as far as wheels go, I found some wheels. I don't necessarily hate the 5-spoke style of them, but the chrome had to go. So I'm hoping just putting some colour through the centre on them will just tone down that centre and make it disappear a little bit, just for now. So the wheels, just to hide that terrible chrome face, I just put some silver, or some wheel silver, and some subframe black, and it's sort of giving it that bronzy colour. It's still a metallic, so anyway, no more chrome. We'll see how they look. And I'm not taking the piss either. That's just the subframe black that I used. There was a tiny bit left in there, and if you can see that, I've added metallic and it's just turned it sort of a rusty bronze colour, so that's what I'm going with. Anyhow, I guess the whole point of the later model wheels is to get my offsets right. If you remember, this thing's 15mm wider. The Hilux was 15mm wider than the FB, so it's going to be a fairly expensive exercise if I ordered wheels that I think will fit, and they didn't. These are off a late model Falcon, so I know they're going to sit in. Then once I get my wheel and tyre offset correct, and I guess widths correct, I can order some wheels and know I can order the right wheels. I'm thinking like a 15-inch black steely, but no one does a smooth black steely for a late model offset, so you're almost custom ordering wheels. This will just allow me to do it once and do it right. You never know, I might like them with my custom rusty bronze colour. So far so good on the leaf spring. That was one of my concerns. What's happened there? This is another of my concerns now. Can't get my damn socket in there. Yes, I can. Yeah, like I say, that was one of the concerns. Am I gonna get the wrong offset, hit the guards, hit the leaf springs? Because this was a tray back, so the wheels that were on it were out a bit. In actual fact, you could hear them hitting the front guards when I went for a drive yesterday. Pretty badly too, so we'll see what these ones do. And this gadget is shitting itself. Oh, I almost forgot to tell you, the reason I chose these was they were cheap. They're 180 bucks with new tyres. I knew they'd fit because they're a Falcon, a late model Falcon offset. So they were just going to be a cheap way to get my shit sorted. Oh, we're close up there, but it'll do for now. And lastly, the shifting gears, I was dead right. The vacuum modulator connected at the back of the transmission, but it was next to the dipstick there, and I guess it was just another one of those ones that I overlooked. I'm going to come to the front of the carburetor there. The modulator's what's stopping it from shifting up gears. In this case, this transmission's got a kick down cable on this side, so it doesn't regulate that. It's just not shifting up because it's not sensing any vacuum. Hence why I'm stuck in first gear. So I'll get this guy cut, get it on there, and we should have gears. Dent it. here, so we're shifting. Second drive. I didn't hate it, but we can do better. I've already started doing my list because there's plenty. There is a rattle in the back there somewhere. I've literally wrote crazy bad rattle. I guarantee you can hear it on the outside of the car because it is deafening on the inside of the car. So there's something at the back I've got to do there. It rides like a busted ass. That's the tires. So I said they weren't staying, and I'm right. They're not staying, but they're there to get the fitment right. Well, they failed because they hit everywhere on the front guards. I'm going to roll the front guards. This is a want, not a need right now. The needs are coming. This is a want. Roll the front guards, take it for another drive. But that's a small thing. They will give me the idea of how big I can go. But anyway, moving on from that. Water leak. They've improved. And I don't mean got better, I mean there's more of them now. I've got 2 more, I'll show you that in a second. And that oil fitting, it is pissing out. I thought I might have nipped the back of the intake manifold gasket when I was trying to put it in, but it's coming out that fast. It's got to be under pressure, so it has to be that bolt leaking. The plugs are tapered seats, so the tighter you go in, the better they seal. That is, it's not leak. I can show you in the cab it's leaking that bad. So crazy bad rattle in the back. Water fittings and hose, that's our new one. Block plug, that's the one we knew about. I ignored as long as I could. Oil fitting, roll guards. If I can get that done, then I'll say it was a good drive. I'll show you this new water leak. So the oil leak we knew about, but I'll show you it first. It's clearly coming from the fitting behind that distributor, or to the side of that distributor. But check this out. This is how I know it's under pressure. Look at that. I could literally watch it pour down the back of the transmission. And it's down the back there, and like I said, I thought I might have nipped the intake manifold gasket. I'll show you what I mean though. So this is what I'm talking about here. That's where that fitting goes, right? If I've put that bolt in there and happened to nip that gasket, I was wondering, have I ruined that gasket? Is that where the leak's coming from? But that's not under pressure. If I take that off, the leak from there would only be from oil getting flung around inside. It's not going to be under pressure. That one's under pressure. This is leaking that bad. I'm going to say it's under pressure. It is literally running down there, leaking as the engine has oil pressure. Here's our new water leak though. See that valley's still full of water? And a plug down there is still dripping. But these guys are now leaking because, look there, it's split. And so is that one. They were both leaking, so I give them a little nip and broke them both. They're obviously just old and shitty. They didn't take much effort. Snapped them both off. So I need 2 fittings. I'm going to replace that hose as well. And that fitting at the back. Just see if we can keep all the fluids on the inside, then we'll get to the wants. So I'll knock these fittings off, and that guard is extremely hot. Of course it is. So will this be? How hot? Oh, you know, hot enough to melt your face, no doubt. But yeah, there you go. See if I can melt my face. A little bit of pressure out, huh? It's not that hot. Like, I'm not gonna self-destruct. Just under a little bit of pressure. Oh, it's pretty warm.
I get them off, and as much as you think I probably should be pissed with the whole show, I'm not. That's an enormous job, and I'm like 2 leaks, some wheel clearance and a rattle away from driving it and actually being kind of okay happy with it. Is that a thing, when you're kind of okay happy? What is that? Whatever. It's acceptable is what I'd say. Right now it's not acceptable. Take them in, find that fitting, go and get them, then we'll get it up on the hoist and do that block. So that soaked up a fair bit of my day ducking in to get high pressure, no, high temp, low pressure line, 2 new front fittings, and I've got a blanking plug for the back, but if I get these hoses off, that's 1 less leak. They're those fittings that just push on. No clamp required, and they're rated to some stupid amount of PSI, but to get them off you've actually got to cut the hose right to the end. But when that little collar is like that, it's actually quite hard to get them off, which I guess that's the point, isn't it? You don't want them to come off until they're buggered, and now I want it off. That's one off. I'm really getting pumped up with this thing. Oh, I forgot to tell you one other thing that happened on that drive. Is some of my wiring got tangled around my the steering shaft. I wonder why. Anyway, I'll get to it. I wonder why the steering went tight all of a sudden. Thought it was just hitting on the guard. Nope, that was all wrapped around it. Got it off, but I got my elbow off as well. These are the sort of fittings that you look at and go, surely that needs a clamp. But no, they don't. They're unreal, to be honest. You high-tech guys will know more about them. I just know the ones I've used have never leaked. Right, we'll get that oil fitting out. Only thing I'm kind of concerned about is if it's not that bolt, then it definitely is the intake manifold, and that's a little bit more work, but you know, it is what it is. It's leaking that bad, I can't ignore it any longer. That's all I'm putting in it, just a plug, but the thread is tapered slightly, so as you go in, it seats down better and better. I'll put a little bit of sealant on it and run it in. I'm spewing a bit about this one because in a funny way, if it is that intake gasket, I know I probably did it. When I was removing that fitting, it's so close. If I've twisted the edge off the gasket, trying to, you know, get a spanner in there, whichever, I've probably caused it. I could have just put a mechanical fitting on it. Stupid. I think I've almost fought with this as long as I can. And the problem is, I'll show you on that motor. So the problem is the manifold's a little different. Look, is that recessed? Does somebody ground that away? Anyway, that's the fitting that came out of it. And it's easy to say now in hindsight, but I could have just went and got a cap, I suppose, and blanked that off, but I didn't know it was going to lead to all this crap. The new one I'm using, the head is a little bigger, and the manifold is a little squarer here. So I can't get anything in it, so I'm literally using a spanner down that way and trying to twist the top of it with multi-grips. Everything's easy in hindsight, isn't it? But we'll see. I've got nothing to lose by just starting it and running it. What's it going to do, leak? I'll just clean up a bit of the oil, but the difficult bit will be, even if I start it and it does leak, I can't see where the leak's coming from, because if it's the stud, I guess it's going to be coming from near the stud. If it's the manifold gasket, well, it's where I damaged it next to the stud, so it's really going to be coming from the same spot. I guess we'll see.
good. Don't worry about down there, that's water. So far I can't see anything. And my fittings and stuff. A little bit of progress. And if you listen, I think I can hear a little exhaust leak on this side right at the back. It's not hot at all, it just feels like it when you dip your finger in it. I suppose 48-degree water will do that. Yeah, it feels pretty hot. Anyway, probably so far so good is all I can say on that. And we can cross off, although it's only a small job, we can cross off those fittings. Took me more time to go and get them than it did to fit them. But in the morning, I guess I'll check that oil fitting again. Block plug, that's the one. Crazy rattle rolled guards, they're little things, but let it cool down, get it in the air, figure out if I've got to take that header off, which it won't disappoint me now if I do have to take the header off, because I reckon I can hear a tiny little exhaust leak at the back, but I'm not going to nip it up. I'm going to leave it in case I have to take it off, fix the plug, then put it back on, then I'll nip it up. Makes sense. Anyway, one step closer, one day closer, one step closer. I'll see you in the morning. So back up on the hoist, and I guess I've put this plug off as long as I can, and it's slowed down. It's probably getting covered with rust. It's slowing the leak down, but if I look at it from that angle, I might actually be able to get an Allen key in there without removing the exhaust. So I'll try that first, maybe. Not a chance in hell. Alright, so this side pipe will come off and that header. If you remember the other day, I said, oh, I can't think of a reason I'll ever have to take this exhaust off. I'm now glad I didn't rush through it and just weld something nasty on there, because I'd be taking the whole exhaust off. This way, I'll knock this front pipe off, and that's all I need to do. Look at that. So now you can see the plug a little better. That's it. I mean, the leak looks like it's coming from inside the center of it, not from the bottom. Like, it doesn't look like it's leaking from the bottom of the thread. It's almost like it's rusted out. Yeah, it's almost like it's rusted out in the center, which you can imagine the bottom of that block. It probably is. It's probably full of rust because it's been sitting. If it's had remnants of water in the bottom of the block, sitting for that many years in the back of my shed, yep, it's probably rusted out. Could probably use a good flush out. Maybe we should do that. Knock those radiator hoses off before it fills that radiator full of crap. Anyway, we'll loosen this header up. That's the thing, I might not need to remove it. I might be able to loosen it and just move it over. Probably a little bit late now that I've turned this harness into a quick release harness, but I'll zip tie this out of the way so I can get to that header. Falls under too little too late, I know. But I wouldn't want to damage it. I have got some wiring to do on this. A lot more than you can see there. Plenty. Not exactly a huge job. Plug leads to come off, and then just bolts here. There's only really, what, 6 of them. I should be able to pull that header back pretty easy. And I don't doubt that there's a little exhaust leak here because they're barely tight. Like, they're nipped up. I'm not saying I was retarded when I fitted them. But after you heat cycle it a couple of times, you do need to nip them back up, and I haven't done it. I probably was retarded when I fitted them, but what I'm saying is I did them up. Not sure if I'm allowed to say retarded, am I? Whatever. If you're referring to yourself, surely you can. Could probably cut them off too, couldn't I? They're a bit excessive. So to answer my question, no. No, I can't remove them. But that's okay, I don't need them. I don't need them removed. Out of the way is fine, and that's out of the way. So let's get it up in the air and get that plug out. And the only reason they won't come out is just my steering shaft there. If you really needed to get it out, you could definitely undo the steering there and knock it out, but I don't really need it to. Anyway, I've stirred it up now. I was just trying to find the right Allen key, and I just went to fit that guy in and wriggled it around. It's a little bit too small. Yeah, a lot too small actually. And she's dripping a lot better. So I would say the center of that plug is just about ready to rust right through. Well, it has, it's leaking. You know what I mean. And it looks like it's steel. It looks steel, so I should be able to just weld it up. Some of, I say look steel, some of them are brass. Oh. Righto, she's finger tight, so I better get a bucket. Bet you this goes everywhere except in that container. And nothing come out. That's not a good sign. That's completely rusted through, so that means there's a fair bit of rust in the bottom of that block. Yes, there is. There's chunks. The chunks of rust there. That came out. Anyway, once I've heat cycled it a few times, I'll give it a bit of a flush out. While that's draining, I guess I'll figure out what I'm going to do to that, but that's actually that thin on that side. I don't know if welding that's going to be overly successful. However, that looks roughly the same size as that plug I pulled out of that side of the block to fit the oil pressure sender. So I might just go through my container and see if I can find that one. Something's telling me that one's been modified, because that looks like the same. Look at the thickness, and that thread has been cut. So I wonder if they've cut it maybe for clearance, because I'm going to have a little clearance issue I think myself with the header. But it's all thread, you could just thread it in further. That's going to work anyway. That's an easy fix. No one said it's going to seal yet, but anyway, I'll let that drain. I'm just trying to soak up that last bit of water just in the edge of the block there, just so when I put that plug in I know it's going to seal. I don't want to do that again. And I'm looking here while I'm soaking that up, and just there is a fair bit to go on this one. If you can imagine, I trimmed the front off the chassis. It's actually that big. Trimmed it off the front of the Hilux chassis. So I'm going to get this section, cut that out and put that back across there, and probably do some more on the mounts. That'll be next episode, but my point being, if you're doing a rebody like this, a cab over a chassis, whether it be a GM chassis or whichever, stick around. We're going to have to go through engineering, you know, the certificate process and all that, so stick around. You never know, you might learn something. You might learn how to not do something too. Anyway, alright, plugs back in. I feel like we're on the home stretch. So header back on, exhaust pipe back on, and we're killing it. Oh, don't let me forget to put some water. Am I confident enough to put coolant in it? No, I'm actually not. So I'll put that in my pocket, so I'll forget it. Yeah, I will forget that, won't I? Where should I put it? Oh, just remember, just hold on to it. Can't hold on to it. Where can I put it that I'll remember? It's on the driver's seat. So I'll remember it because I'll sit on it and it'll hit me right up the arse cheek. It's like it was made for it. While that's refilling that radiator, let's ever so gently massage these guards. Just going to use a rubber mallet, just because of its wide face, just so I'm not putting sharp little dents in it. I wonder if that's my mad rattle. Oh, we're full. Definitely be a rattle. I'll just pop a washer on that and I'll nip it up. Oh, made for it. Nope. I reckon it's in the back. I'll look in a second. Just get this done. Double skin there. That's got a brace there. Look. So that bit there was easy, but it's got a double skin there. It's got like that bracket and everything. It's sort of joined to the guard there. I'm gonna have to hit that a little harder. Although I actually think it was only catching in this front section. So maybe I'll just go to there and just see. Maybe I'll just go to that point and just see if I can
knock that out a little bit more and be happy with that.
Shit falling out of it everywhere. Didn't think that'd happen. Oh, I mean, it's rolled over anyway, so at least if they touch, they're not gonna grab at the tyre. Down the track, I reckon I'm thinking like a black steely, or maybe white steely with a hubcap. But for now, these will do. I definitely wouldn't put this offset on the front. Well, not offset, I wouldn't have them as wide on the front. I'd probably go a skinnier rim. A little bit wider on the back, a little bit skinnier on the front. But a stock looking rim, dead standard. It's got enough modification shit going on without aftermarket, you know, flash wheels. Right, the rattle, and that's it.
Well, it didn't end up being too hard to find. It's a bar bracket. I'll just chuck a bolt in that and we're away.
Alright, third time lucky, third drive. This time we'll keep the fluids on the inside and I'll be happy. I hope. Most of the fluids. I'd be happy with most of the fluids staying on the inside. Let's do it. We'll see how we go. I know I've already said it, but geez, it sounds good. Straight into second, so we're still touching the guards. Bad rattle. Get out of my face, you little black prick. Start again. Oh, seriously. Here comes summer. Summer and the flies.
Oh, geez, how long is it?
Oh, fucking hell. Really? Really? At no stage did I say I was smart. We'll pause while that noise is on for a little beer break. Because after all, it's after beer time. Right, where were we? I don't know about you, but I reckon I earned this one. That thing was scrap, and as tedious and as painful as that might have seemed, I enjoyed every second of it. I just drove something that was probably unsavable. And I mean, easy to stay motivated. Have a listen to it. Realistically, that motor's probably a little bit too much for it. I didn't know how racy that cam was going to be, but it sounds fairly healthy. Single plane manifold. It might shock me, and I guess that's the next time you'll see this one. There's a lot to do on it. Do stick around. We've got a bit of variety coming up with the next one, probably one you wouldn't expect. So do hit the buttons, hang about. But I guess till next time, I'll see you then, and thanks for watching. And I mean that. Thank you for watching.